We finally made it, and we are with our much beloved Nkuhumas once again. Hello, big girl. Hello, Amber. And look at that. How are we doing there, Senzo? Have I got to bar? Oh, yep, I've got the bar right in the wrong place. Okay, we can't go too much closer. Just hold on. Let's do this. There we go. And I will put my head out of your way. There we go. The Nkuhumas looking a little bit bloodied, a little bit dirty, and covered just in general in buffalo muck. But it's wonderful to see them eating happily away. And you can hear the snarls and the growls. And that's a big buffalo they've caught. That's wonderful news for them. Sorry, a little bit gory for some of you. Perhaps this is your first time watching. This is your first time to see a kill like this. It is the reality of life out here. There's no supermarkets for them to go and get their nice pre-packed meat. They have to catch it themselves, and that can be quite a gruesome business. Oh, let's do a head count quickly, since it's been so long since we've seen the Nkuhumas. I think all 5 of the lionesses are here. Amber Eyes is definitely here, and I saw another lioness lying up not too far away. And Senzo, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to move just to make space for this other vehicle. So, excuse my head, everybody. Hello, Amber. It's all right. We're just going to shift back ever so slightly. There we go. That way we can all fit into the sighting. There we go. So we've got a good view, and they can get a good view as well. How's the job, and how are you? Good. Hi, guys. Slightly over-prepared. Oh, Yarbin's just teasing us about our roof, which is fair enough. It hasn't rained at all. You can see the lionesses growling at each other. There's Amber Eyes, obviously immediately distinctive by her bright orange eyes. It's so wonderful to catch up with them once again. Look how big you've got. Oh, you disgusting little creature. You're filthy dirty. And you've got so big. That is unbelievable. From those tiny little teddy bear, fluffy, adorable creatures that they once were, they now look like little miniature lions. And they're going through that proper gangly phase. Like teenagers that have grown too fast and their bodies haven't quite kept up. And of course, it doesn't help that they are covered in buffalo, which adds a certain raggedy dimension to their demeanor. Here we go. Senzo's first lion kill. And his first sighting of the Nkuhumas and the cubs, which is awesome. I cannot... Of course I know that it's inevitable that cubs grow. That is what cubs do. Are you surviving there? That is what cubs do. Yet it's whenever you go away for a while, or you don't see them. Look at this cub snarling at the lioness. Oh, you cheeky thing. And dinner time for lions means every man, woman or lion, I suppose would probably be lioness or lion, for themselves, cubs included. And that means fighting off mum, one of the lionesses that actually did all of the hard work. Then, well, that's just the way it has to be. And cubs, very young cubs, will often get smacked around when they try to feed or they push things too far. Let's just listen to this for a second. Okay, settling down again. Sorry, the sound effects at a lion kill like this are always so awesome that you actually have to stop and listen to them. April, you want to know how old the cubs are? The eldest must be, sure, what would it be now? 8 months old. August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. Almost 9 months old. Have I got the maths right? Have I got their birth dates right? I must have done. It must be nearly 8, 9 months old. And then the youngest must be around 7 or so months old, or just under 7 or so months old. For the life of me, I cannot remember their exact birth dates, but that's the rough that's roundabout where they are. And of course we don't know exactly when they were born. We suspected, and we saw the youngest when they were just a few days old. But we don't know their exact birth dates. But those of you who perhaps have access to your records, when were these Nkuhuma cubs born? I think I'm right. But if you could just confirm for me, and obviously you can do that using the hashtag #SafariLive on Twitter. And you may wonder why, when we've watched cubs grow up, that we don't know their exact ages. It's because we barely know which day of the week it is or which month of the year it is half the time. So keeping track gets a bit tricky when all of your sightings blur into one. I know that they've grown immensely. Look at the claws of that one cub on the buffalo, stretched out and gripping onto the skin. Shiny white up against its muddy paws. Anisha, yes, it is absolutely true that lions cannot purr. All of the Panthera members the members of the Panthera genus, tigers, leopards, lions. And I actually think, not included in that family, but I actually don't think that cougars can purr, if I'm not mistaken. Those of you who live in those areas, maybe you've seen them, you can correct me on that if I'm wrong. But I have a feeling that cougars can't purr either. And it's a function of for lions at least, their hyoid apparatus, the bones around their larynx, are adapted to be able to stretch right out to allow them to roar. And that changes the shape of things, and it doesn't allow the vibration of purring. So technically lions cannot purr. They make sort of almost purring sounds of contentment, but it's not a proper purr. They kind of grrr, it's like a low growl when they're contented and they're rubbing up against each other. But they definitely do not purr. You can see they're panting very fast at the moment, and that's because a combined effort of taking down a massive buffalo bull like this, and we've seen them hunt live before. We know what it requires from them, and it requires a huge amount of strength and skill and stamina. These buffalo bulls do not go down without a fight. So they've probably spent most of the evening taking down this gentleman. And unfortunate for him, but for them an absolute necessity, especially with 6 growing cubs to feed, who are going to start eating more and more and more. Oh, the amazing thing about lions is that in one go they can usually eat between 5, even up to, at a real stretch, 10% of their body weight. So for these lions, in answer to Julia's question, for these lionesses, they weigh probably around about 120, 130 kilograms, maybe even a little bit more. So that would mean around about 10 kilograms of meat, between 6 and 10 kilograms of meat in one sitting. And they will continue to gorge themselves at you too. I'm going to play a little bit. Oh, so gross. So what would that be in pounds? Potentially over 20 pounds of meat in one sitting. And remember, they'll gorge themselves, and then they'll go and lie down, and then they'll come back and gorge themselves some more. And as we watch them devour this carcass over the course of the next few days, those bellies are going to look so fat, you'll actually be astounded that they can move at all. It's one of those things that predators are able to do. It's basically stretch out their bellies and properly gorge themselves in a way that we as human beings can't really do, or shouldn't really be able to do, let's put it that way. Hyenas, leopards, lions, they all are fairly capable of that. And what that means is that for the next few days they're actually going to be completely bloated, boiling hot, and very lazy. And that's not their fault. It's because the digestive process releases a huge amount of heat whilst breaking down all of that meat as rapidly as they do. And so they're constantly feeling overheated. Hello, ladies. Long time no see. It's good to see them looking so good. Wait, out of my way. So there you go, Mira. You wanted to know about why they are panting so heavily. It's a combination, quite potentially, because this is a relatively fresh kill. This probably happened in the last few hours, so it's a combination of the effort involved with hunting something like this and then gorging themselves. And if you can imagine, look at those bellies. They're not even fully stuffed yet. But you can imagine that the more they fill those bellies, the more it presses up. Remember how I told you they can gorge themselves? And press up against their diaphragm. So it causes that panting. And then most importantly, it's the release of heat. Oh, this cub's going to get cross. I can't tell if she's licking the cub or a buffalo. It releases a huge amount of heat, so they need to pant to cool down. Obviously, lions can't sweat. They're also very, very prone to overheating. And there's evolutionary reasons for that. But essentially, they cannot really move about during the heat of the day. Their body temperatures can't rise much more than a degree before they start to really struggle. Look at those claws. Only a few months old and already equipped with some serious weaponry. And you can see them retracting in and out. It's actually the perfect example. If I can't eat the buffalo, I'll clean you. No, I'm going to move my paw. Just in case Mum makes a mistake and forgets she's giving me a bath and tries to eat my foot. Well, we're going to sit here for a bit and enjoy the company of the Nkuhumas, but let's go and find out what James is up to. Luckily, our lions are still with us, not that they were going to go anywhere, and James is absolutely right. We're going to spend as much time as we possibly can, particularly in this spot. And the reason that I say that is we are right up close to the boundary of Elephant Plains and Simbambili. And to the west of us lies probably the largest hyena clan in this area. It is apparently an absolutely massive clan, and we call it the Elephant Plains Hyena Clan. And it consists of at least, according to the other guides who see them, at least 40 hyenas. Now that's enough hyenas, and they've been known to do this before, to chase off these females, particularly if there aren't any males in this area. And if there were a male lion around, he would be right here on top of the carcass. Look at that dirty face. Look at you. Your scruffy face. You need a wet wipe. Now, Taylor, you were wondering about hyenas stealing the kill and whether hyenas or wild dogs could do so. Hyenas, yes, potentially, if you have a good balance of numbers, particularly since these lionesses have cubs, so they're likely to be relatively safer rather than sorry in terms of protecting their carcass and the cubs. So if hyenas came in and mobbed them, and I would guess that the number of around about 20 to 30 hyenas would have to gather together to chase these lionesses. There are 5 of them to protect this carcass, and that should be enough to stave off the hyenas, but it is possible if they gather together and work together as a clan, which of course is what they're very good at. Wild dogs? Absolutely not. A wild dog is afraid of lions. A wild dog falls well below them in the predator hierarchy, just in terms of sheer weight. And we've seen it before, the Styx lioness that killed one of the wild dogs during Brent's sighting. All predators will kill other predators if they can. That's just the natural way of things to reduce competition. But unfortunately, in that case, the wild dogs weren't fast enough to get away. If the wild dogs were to come running through here and they saw these lions, they would turn around and run immediately in the opposite direction, with the lionesses potentially chasing them as well. And lionesses, they go full tilt when there's a wild dog pack around. Yeah, they don't half-heartedly chase them away. They really, really go for it. As we saw with that Styx lioness, even after she'd killed the one wild dog, she went for the rest of the pack with serious intent. So no, wild dogs absolutely not. Hyenas, possibly. Beautiful sighting. It's just Djuma and myself on lock. I think you can make your way in. Now, Steve, you want to know when the vultures will arrive. Steve, I think that's what you said anyway. I had 2 voices in my ear. Steve, they are already here. It doesn't take a vulture very long to find a buffalo carcass like this. So if we have a look, Senzo, if we have a look over there, there's the first of the whiteback vultures gathering. It's in that dead tree up over there. Can you see it there? It's just over there. Yeah, there's the whiteback vulture. Here we go. Awesome. So there's the first of the white-backed vultures. More and more of them will gather, and that's of course the way in which vultures work. They've got phenomenal eyesight. The first few will spot the lions on the carcass whilst they're soaring around and thermaling, and then the rest will gather as the day heats up, because of course the vultures need the rising warm air currents to really properly go off in search of food. But once the day starts to get warmer, they'll start to thermal. They'll see the other vultures and come and have a look at what they're looking at, and so on and so forth. So the process will just continue to repeat itself until the point that we'll probably end up with about 20 vultures or so here, possibly even more. So there you go, Steve. The vultures have arrived. Just one for now. I did see some others not too long ago, but it's just the one here for now. The lions are really truly enjoying their meal. They were obviously quite hungry. Now Tracy, you want to know, because of course there's a bit of aggression happening here, you want to know if cubs have ever been killed whilst feasting on a kill. There are 1 or 2 recorded cases of it happening. It's very, very unusual, and it's usually something that doesn't happen because of the adult females or the adult males, because the adult males of course are far more tolerant of their cubs than they are of the lionesses, because the cubs are theirs, or as far as they know the cubs are theirs. Look at your bloody face. Oh, quick nap in between feeding. Maybe it's weird, but I find that very sweet, that it's passed out on the buffalo. Usually when cubs get killed, it's when they're quite young and they've overstepped their mark in terms of pushing in to feed off the carcass, and it's usually sub-adults or younger lions that could actually turn around and kill them, or even actually older cubs. If there's quite a big age gap between the cubs, the older cubs don't quite have control or realize their own strength or the fragility of younger cubs, and they could potentially kill them. It's one of the reasons why lionesses don't really introduce their young cubs to the pride until they're about 6 or so weeks old, just because they need some time to be... Oh, I wish my camera battery was not flat. I would so love a picture of that. You'll have to take screenshots for me. Let's see how vicious it can get. It's unusual for a cub to die in this process. Sometimes what happens is a whack with a paw, and remember that these lions have paws the size of a man's hand with a great deal of strength behind them. So sometimes a whack with a foot or a paw could actually cause an injury that could then result in death if that cub doesn't heal quickly, if it's not able to keep up with the rest of the pride. But it's very unusual for that to occur. We're going to enjoy our time spent with the Nkuhumas and appreciate the fact, since we are downwind, that this particular carcass is quite fresh. The lions have been lucky in their hunting attempts. Let's go and find out whether the same could be said of Shongile. Full morning chorus consists of the ferocious growls of the various lionesses snapping away at the cubs. As you can hear, there are other people in the sighting with us, as is regularly the case. The tourists come to see these amazing sights as well, and of course, as you know, when tourists come through, they bring money in that can be used in a very valuable way for the conservation of these animals. So for those of you that can hear the laughter and so on, they're having a marvellous time. They're enjoying the sighting as well, and we're happy to share it with them. Also, Ryan's been keeping me thoroughly entertained as well while you've been with Brent. And good morning to Annette. Annette, I wish I knew where the male lions were. I have absolutely no idea where the Birmingham boys are. I assume they've gone to go off in search of some food themselves. So just to clarify, because particularly in this area there's a misconception about lions. A male lion is not a part of a pride. A male lion, or a group of male lions known as a coalition, has a territory, and that territory will encompass the territory of several different groups of females. Maybe just one, but often 2 or 3 different prides of females. So the males are not always with the females. Often they are. They come and visit, they come and steal their food, eat the lion's share, play with the cubs, and then potentially mate with the females, and then off they go again. But the males have got an important job to do, and they've actually got to patrol the territory around this area to make sure that no other males come in, because any other male that would come into this area would automatically kill those cubs as a natural instinct in order to bring the females back into estrus and to mate with them. So we don't always see the males with the females. The males are more, despite the rumours, or the misconception perhaps is a better word, the males are not incapable of feeding themselves. They are more than capable of hunting, and they're very good at it. So they don't need to be with the females. They often are, but as far as I know, the Birmingham boys are not on this particular property. They were yesterday. They were up in Simbambili yesterday, so I'm not quite sure where they've gone, why they've separated from the ladies. Perhaps the ladies managed to ditch them. And just by the way, for those of you wondering about head counts, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There are 5 adult lionesses here. So all 5 Nkuhumas are here, though just 2 of them are particularly well hidden. You can hear Amber Eyes crunching away. Of course, once we've done a head count of adults, I'm going to try and do a head count of cubs for you. There were 6 apparently yesterday, so I have no doubt there are 6 here as well. It's just a matter of trying to see them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that I can see. Oh, 6. There's 6. 6 has just emerged behind the other female with a totally revoltingly bloody head. So there's 6 of them here. There we go, no cause for concern. All 6 present and accounted for. It's very special actually to see all of our, oh, big yawn from a little cub. It's very special to see all of our Nkuhumas together again. It's actually been a very long time since we've seen them feasting together like this. Now, Sandy, you want to know if a lion ever eats so much that it throws up. Generally, if it throws up, it's because something's disagreed with it, or perhaps the intestinal or the gut parasites are playing games with its digestive system and making it feel a little bit unwell, or it is, that's another big yawn, showing off those adult teeth now, and growing all your adult teeth. Sorry, we were talking about vomiting lions. Often when they throw up, it's because they've ingested a piece of hoof or a piece of bone that their digestive system isn't managing to break down, that they can't actually break down to pass it along the digestive tract, and that's when they throw up. It's not usually from gorging themselves. I've never seen a lion throw up from gorging itself before. They are very, very well adapted to be able to stuff their bellies. So it's not like a human being where you could actually force yourself to eat to the point of needing to vomit. And whenever you see a lion's vomit, oh, okay, ladies, it's okay. One of them just got a little bit of a fright. The rest of them are still gathered, and actually one cub taking full advantage of Amber Eyes' surprise to take her place at the buffalo's bottom. It's something that the part of the buffalo that they always go for. Oh, these cubs are looking disgusting, but in a rather sweet way. And while our mucky lions sleep off their very full belly, it seems as though James has encountered something underneath his shoe. Let's go and find out what it is, because it isn't gum. Having fantastic breakfast, actually, is what our lions are up to, snacking away. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to wait a little bit before we made our way into this lion sighting, just to let everybody else have their chance to see them, so that we could come and sit and spend as much time as we wanted to with them. Just because, again, we never know when these Nkuhumas are going to disappear at the moment. They've been following the buffalo, and since the buffalo haven't been on Djuma, we haven't really seen them. They've all been up north towards Buffelshoek and Manuleti. I'm particularly chuffed that we've had an entire morning spent with our very, very grubby looking Nkuhumas. There we go, this young cub has taken Amber Eyes' place at the carcass, tucking in right into the back around the spine. And this carcass, between the 11 lions here, will probably be gone by sometime tomorrow afternoon, if it even makes it that long. I've noticed that these cubs seem to have basically bottomless pits as stomachs. And for the Nkuhumas, food doesn't go quite as far as it used to when they were just the 5 lionesses on their own. One cub cautiously sticking its head in. Now, of course, all of them are looking, well, not their cleanest, let's put it that way. Julia, the blood won't stain their fur. What will happen is once they've eaten their fill and eaten the majority, this is the messy part of feeding off a buffalo carcass, because it's they have to get the intestines out of the way, so that all of that brown stuff is half digested grass that the buffalo's consumed. And then, of course, all of the organs, which are the bloodiest part of the buffalo. Once this buffalo carcass is past a few hours old, the blood congeals properly and it doesn't cover their faces in the same way. It's just not as fresh. But what will happen is once they go down, once they've finished feeding, the lionesses will clean off the cubs will clean off themselves and each other. That's the joy of lions, is that they do allo-groom. They groom each other, and they'll be pretty much clean probably by tonight. And they'll still have a muck on them every now and again, but it won't be nearly as bad as it is now. It also is because the cubs keep climbing into the carcass itself, and it really isn't very clean in there. Once the carcass is more fully open, they won't need to get as grubby in order to have access to meat. So no, the blood doesn't stain them. Otherwise lions would be, I guess, a dark red all the time. You can see the lionesses are not nearly as filthy as the cubs. They haven't tucked in with as much relish. A good question from Take Care, because it's becoming more and more relevant the older these cubs get. And Take Care would like to know if these cubs would have been involved in this kill. Probably not. At this age, we have seen the Nkuhuma cubs participating and learning on younger and smaller buffalo, and I think Taylor had an incredible sighting where the cubs were practicing their springing technique and sort of grabbing and holding onto the back of the buffalo. Not pleasant for the poor buffalo, of course, but an important learning curve for these cubs. However, a big buffalo bull like this, they probably would have had to stay out of the way. And the reason that I say that is just because a massive buffalo bull like this is capable of killing an adult lioness, let alone an inexperienced cub. So they probably would have had to stay out of the way. What you might find, because this is very common with cubs of this age, and for the next year or so, these poor lionesses are going to have to put up with every time they try and stalk something, well, not every time, but most of the time when they're trying to stalk something, a cub goes and messes it up. Yes, I'm talking about you, you mucky creature. Although at least you've had the decency to go and defecate away from the breakfast table. But yes, the cubs want to help. They don't know how to help, and as a result, they tend to alert the animals to their presence. I'm going to carry on sitting with these lions. I'm under no pressure to go anywhere. So while I do that, let's send you over to a feathered friend of James's. Very busy, and you can see the injuries on this buffalo's shoulder, and it just goes to show how sharp those lions' claws are, because buffalo skin is unbelievably tough. And yet that when they jump onto the back of a buffalo like that, that is how they manage to stay on, by digging the claws into the flesh of the buffalo's shoulder. And it's a very intense and very difficult thing to watch lions hunting a buffalo. We've seen quite a few of the buffalo hunts live, and it always takes quite an extended period of time with these old bulls. And I've just been thinking actually about Derek and Beverly Joubert, who of course are acclaimed documentary makers, photographers and conservationists. And they had a truly unfortunate incident with a buffalo in their camp that both of them were very lucky to be able to walk away from, albeit after considerable surgery. And of course our thoughts are with them during their recovery period, and we're very, very glad that they were as lucky as they were to have escaped, not uninjured, but to have escaped with their lives. But it just made me think about, of course a lioness is bigger than most human beings, much, much heavier, but it just makes me think about the risks that they have to take with their lives every 3 or 4 days, when they go off searching for a buffalo to hunt. It is such a dangerous process. Those buffalo bulls are so powerful, and that's why the teamwork is all important between lionesses. And it does happen every now and again that a buffalo hunt goes wrong and lions are killed. That's one of the potential theories behind the death of one of the Birmingham boys, was that he had a collapsed lung from a buffalo hunt, whether it was a kick or a horn that hit him in the stomach. They are truly powerful creatures, and I find it amazing that lions are able to do this on a weekly basis. The toll it must take on their bodies. They are so phenomenally resilient. Yes, little cubs, and one day you will have to do it too. Now you've got moms to sort you out, but in the next few months you're going to have to learn. And welcome to Louise, who'd like to know a little bit more about these lion cubs. And Louise, you want to know if these cubs are the siblings of the ones that died recently. Yes, they are. Not the Styx cubs that unfortunately succumbed to their mange. These lion cubs, and in fact the adult lions as well, became seriously, I don't think the word infected is the word I'm looking for. It wasn't really infected, but they fell foul of a vitamin deficiency as a result of the fact that the buffalo they were eating was so thin and so undernourished that as a result the lions were short of vitamin E and selenium in their diet, and that resulted in something known as white muscle disease, which basically caused a complete paralysis of the muscles. And 2 of our Nkuhuma cubs succumbed. 2 more of them were also very, very ill. We were extremely concerned about them. They were walking around dragging their back legs. And the adults also started to show signs of weakness around their hindquarters. Fortunately, they obviously got a buffalo with the vitamins that they needed. They got something that managed to fix most of them. But for 2 of the Nkuhuma cubs, they weren't so lucky. And it was apparently one of the youngest litter, part of the youngest litter, one of them and one of the oldest cubs. So that would make them the siblings or cousins of the cubs that died. It was heartbreaking for all of us because, of course, we've followed these cubs since they were very, very, very small. So, and it's an inevitability. It's very, very unusual for lions to be able to raise an entire set of cubs to adulthood. There is a high mortality rate, but usually those deaths are caused by male lions or buffalo or another predator, not as a result of a basic deficiency in their diet. It was hard to watch. But we comfort ourselves in the fact that all 5 lionesses came through, and most of the cubs as well. And they're looking very happy and very healthy, if somewhat filthy. At least we know they are eating well. I think it's time for us to say goodbye to our Nkuhumas for now and start the long trek back home. So while I leave the Nkuhumas, we'll send you back across to James to find out what he has planned for the last few minutes of the safari.